I woke up to the taste of cheap vodka, a splitting headache, and the very real, very muscular arm of a man wrapped around my waist. Wait, a man? I blinked. Once, twice. My vision sharpened through the hangover haze, sheets twisted around my legs, someone's cologne clinging to my skin, warm breath ghosting against my neck. Oh God, please don't let this be what I think it is. I turned my head, and the universe decided to personally ruin my life. Zach Weston, my boss's son. The cocky, rich, smirking pain in the ass who strutted into the company 6 months ago like he owned it. Which, okay, technically he does. And now he's lying next to me, completely naked, looking like sin wrapped in smugness. He stretched, every muscle flexing like a damn ad campaign. "Morning, sweetheart," he drawled, voice low and lazy. "Sleep well?" I forgot how to breathe. What did we... Oh my God. He just smirked, sitting up like this was his daily routine. "Don't look so scandalized. You were begging for it last night." My jaw dropped. "You're lying. Want me to remind you?" His grin turned wicked, eyes flicking down my body in a way that made my brain crash. "Nope!" I bolted, scrambling off the bed so fast I smacked my knee on the nightstand. My pants were inside out, my shirt was missing a button, and for some reason, his tie was around my wrist. I tripped over a shoe, his, obviously, and crashed into the dresser, sending a water bottle flying. It bounced off the floor right as he laughed. Full on, low, infuriatingly sexy laughter. "Careful, sweetheart. You'll need your energy for round 2. I didn't even dignify that with a response. I snatched my clothes, my dignity, what was left of it, and bolted out the door half dressed and half dead inside. The last thing I saw before escaping, Zach Weston, propped up on one elbow, sheets sliding down his hips, grinning like he'd won something. Spoiler, he had no idea what kind of hell he had just unleashed. Flashback, 2 years ago. If you'd told me 2 years ago I'd wake up naked next to him, I'd have laughed, and then quit my job just to make sure it never happened. But back then, Zach Weston wasn't my boss's son. He was just the new guy, the temporary corporate strategist who breezed into the company in a $1,000 suit, flashing a smile like he'd invented charm. Everyone loved him instantly. The execs called him brilliant. The interns giggled when he passed by. Even the vending machine guy said, "That Weston kid's got something." Yeah, he had something all right. An ego the size of a private jet. The first time we met, he spilled his coffee on my shirt. Didn't apologize. Just looked me dead in the eye and said, "Guess now we're even." You've been spilling attitude all morning. I hated him immediately. We got assigned to the same project a week later. He was all numbers and strategy. I was design and creativity. He called my ideas reckless. I called his plans soulless. Our meetings could have been pay-per-view fights, and somehow everyone loved it. "God, you two have chemistry," my coworker Jenna whispered once. I almost choked on my coffee. Chemistry? Please. He's pure irritation in a tailored suit. But the truth? There was chemistry. The kind that crackled under every argument. The kind that made silence feel heavy. He'd stand too close when we argued. He dropped his voice low when he knew it'd throw me off. That infuriating smirk of his, half challenge, half promise. One night, we stayed late finalizing a pitch deck. Just the two of us. Fluorescent lights are buzzing overhead. My brain fried. His tie loosened. We were fighting about some color palette when he suddenly said, "You get this worked up about everything, Austin?" "Only when someone's being an ass. Then I guess I should keep it up." And then he smiled, slow, knowing. I looked away too quickly. That was the start of it. The tension, the teasing, the stupid little games. We'd pass each other in the hallway, pretending not to notice, but always noticing. He'd accidentally brush against me when reaching for papers. I'd roll my eyes, pretending it didn't make my stomach twist. He'd send emails that looked perfectly professional, until you noticed the lines under the subject line. Subject, urgent. Body, you looked good in that blue shirt today. I didn't reply. Ever. But I kept those emails. I don't know why. A year later, his father announced Zach was officially joining the company. Permanently. The golden boy had come home, and somehow, he made it worse. He got promoted fast, of course. A corner office, a key card that opened every floor. And me? Still stuck under flickering lights, and a boss who thought exposure was better than a raise. Zach would stroll past my desk just to annoy me. Drop off. Files he could have emailed. Steal my coffee mug. Once, he leaned down behind me during a meeting, his breath brushing my ear as he whispered, "Try not to glare at me too hard. People might think you care I nearly stabbed him with my pen." But that's the thing about Zach Weston. He thrived on reactions, and I, God help me, kept giving them to him. We spent 2 years like that. 2 years of banter, eye rolls, accidental touches, and moments that went too quiet, too long. I'd catch him watching me sometimes, expression softer than it should have been. And sometimes, when he'd loosen his tie after a meeting, sleeves rolled up, grin lazy, I'd catch myself wondering what it'd be like if I stopped hating him for just 1 second. But I never did. At least not until the office party. Too much alcohol, too much dancing, too much of him. He'd found me outside, sitting on the curb, complaining about the boss's speech. "You know," he'd said, crouching beside me, "I think you only come to these parties to glare at me. Please, the world doesn't revolve around you." "No," he'd said softly, "but you do seem to orbit pretty close." I should have walked away. I didn't. We ended up laughing, drinking, talking, and somewhere between "I still hate you" and "you're actually not that bad," we crossed the line. And now here I am, 2 years of rivalry, sarcasm, and denial later, naked in his bed, with the man I swore I'd never touch. And the worst part, a tiny, traitorous part of me already wants to do it again. Flashback ends. The next day. If there's one thing worse than waking up naked next to your boss's son, it's walking into work the next morning pretending you didn't. I spent 40 minutes in front of the mirror convincing myself I looked normal. Buttoned shirt, neat hair, totally fine. Except for the part where my soul was still vibrating with panic. Everyone at the office was buzzing about the new management changes. I clung to my coffee like it was holy water. Then the elevator doors slid open. And there he was, in a perfectly tailored suit, looking sinfully alive for 9 a.m. He walked in like he owned the place. Crisp suit, smug grin, and the kind of confidence that made everyone turn their heads. But my blood ran cold the second I saw him. Zach Weston. The same man whose hands had been on me barely 12 hours ago. The same man who'd whispered my name like it was a secret. He stopped right by my desk, smile lazy and knowing, the kind of smile that said he remembered everything. Every touch, every gasp, every goddamn detail of last night. "Morning," he drawled, tone infuriatingly smooth. "Sleep well?" My throat went dry. "Please tell me this is a nightmare." He leaned in, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Sharp, clean, dangerous. His voice dropped, barely a whisper. "If it is," he murmured, "I really hope you don't wake up." Then he straightened, gave me that wicked little smirk, and walked off, leaving my sanity scattered in his wake. I nearly spilled my coffee down my shirt. By noon, the HR email dropped. Please welcome Zach Weston as Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. A KA, my new boss. I actually considered jumping out of the nearest window. From that moment, my life turned into a daily battle. He'd accidentally schedule meetings with just the two of us. He'd lean against my desk, sleeves rolled up, pretending to discuss numbers while whispering things that made my brain short-circuit. Zach, you're staring again. Me. At your bad decision-making skills. Yes. Zach, grinning. And here I thought you liked a challenge. God, he was infuriating. And worse, he knew exactly how to get under my skin. A few days later, it happened on a Friday night. Everyone else had gone home. The lights dimmed, the building humming quietly, the kind of silence that makes you realize you've been working too long. I was gathering my things when I saw him by the elevators. Still there. Still perfect. Zach, you live here now? Me. Some of us actually work for a living. Zach, you mean you work for me, technically. I glared. He grinned. Same old dance. We got into the elevator together. I told myself it'd be fine. 10 floors, 30 seconds, no problem. Then the lights flickered and died. The elevator jerked to a stop. My heart dropped straight through my shoes. Me. Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. Zach, calmly. Relax. It's just a power cut. That's me. Easy for you to say. You probably own the backup generator. He chuckled. The sound was deep, annoyingly attractive in the dark. Silence. The kind that presses against your ribs. I could feel his presence, the warmth of him, the faint scent of cologne, the quiet rhythm of his breathing. Zach, softly. Still pretending you don't want me? Me, barely breathing. I don't. Zach, then why are you shaking? My throat went dry. I'm not. The lights flickered back on. He was right there, inches away, eyes burning into mine. We didn't kiss, but for one split second, we both forgot how to move. When the elevator doors opened, I bolted like it was on fire. For the next week, Zach made it impossible to breathe. He started showing up with coffee, my favorite somehow. Don't flatter yourself, he said once, handing me a cup. The barista got my order wrong. Right. Every single day. He was everywhere, leaning against my office door, making everyone laugh, turning every room into his. And damn it, I started noticing things I shouldn't have. The way his green eyes softened when he actually listened. The rare, unguarded smile when he thought no one was watching. I told myself it meant nothing, that I still hated him. I still remember the smirk from that morning. And then came the gala, the company's annual fundraiser. Music, champagne, fake smiles. I spotted him across the room. Black tux, tie undone, glass in hand. And of course, those eyes found mine instantly. I tried to avoid him, slipped away toward the hallway behind the ballroom, but Zach followed. Zach, softly, you look good tonight. Me. Don't. Zach. Can't help it. I can't stop thinking about you, suck. This is a mistake. Zach, maybe. But it's our mistake. And then he kissed me. No hesitation, no warning, just heat. The kind that burns straight through reason. I should have pushed him away. Instead, I grabbed his collar. We stumbled into a side room. Hands everywhere, clothes half undone, the world spinning off its axis. Every ounce of hate, every argument, every stolen glance, it all exploded. It wasn't polite. It wasn't careful. It was fire. Raw, messy, inevitable. When it was over, we didn't speak. We just stood there breathing hard, eyes locked, knowing exactly what we'd done. And I remember thinking, this is the part where everything gets complicated. A week or two later, we promised it was just sex. Simple. No strings, no drama, no feelings. Yeah, right. Every night after work, one of us would cave. A text, a look, a locked door, and then hands, mouths, breathless silence. It wasn't supposed to mean anything, but I started noticing the little things. The way he touched me more softly afterward, like he didn't want to break me. The way his voice dropped when he said my name. We'd fight over everything during the day. Ideas, presentations, who forgot to send a file, and then end up tangled together hours later, pretending we still hated each other. Sometimes I'd wake up in his bed, dawn slipping through the blinds, and I'd see him watching me. Quiet, unsmiling. He'd reach out, brush his thumb over my cheek like it was a reflex, and I'd pretend I was still half asleep so I didn't have to admit it felt like something real. My friends started noticing. Jenna, you've been smiling like an idiot. Me, too fast. I smile. Jenna, not like that. And Zach, God, he started acting different too. In meetings, when someone talked over me, he'd cut them off with that cool executive tone. If I looked stressed, there'd be a coffee waiting on my desk. No note, no explanation. Just there. The line between hate and love blurred until it was practically invisible. And that scared me more than anything, because I knew. This kind of thing never stayed secret for long. A week later. It happened on a Thursday, one of those long, exhausting days that bleed into the night. We thought no one was around. The office was dark, except for Zach's floor. We were in his office, blinds half closed, stealing a few minutes we shouldn't. His tie around my wrist, my back against his desk. And then, the sound of the door. We froze. A gasp, then footsteps running down the hall. I felt my stomach drop. Oh my God, Zach. Hey, look at me. Me. Someone saw us. Zach, it's fine. I'll handle it, but it wasn't fine. By morning, whispers had already started, the kind that travels faster than emails. People suddenly stopped making eye contact. Conversations died when I entered a room. And then my boss, Zach's father, called him in for a private word. Zach came out looking furious, jaw tight. He pulled me into the stairwell. Zach, he's suspicious. He thinks I'm involved with someone at work. Me, so what did you say? Zach, I said it's none of his damn business. My heart was pounding. You can't, Zach, you can't be reckless like that. He stepped closer, voice rising. You think this is just fun for me? I'm trying to protect you. Me, protect me? By getting yourself fired? By dragging me down with you? Zach, you don't get it. You mean? He stopped himself. Fist clenched, jaw set. Zach, you don't get it. I did. Too well. That was. The moment I realized we weren't living in the same world. He had power, a safety net, and I had me. My job, my rent, my career I'd fought tooth and nail to build. And I couldn't lose it. Not for him, not for anyone. That night, I didn't go to his place. And it was the first night I couldn't sleep without him. 2 weeks later. The party was loud. Too many people, too much champagne. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I needed to see him. Needed to know if we were still us. He was across the room, surrounded by his friends, all sharp suits and expensive laughter. He looked relaxed, carefree, like nothing had happened. I was about to go up to him when I heard it. Zach, laughing. Yeah, it's nothing serious. Just a fling. The world blurred. Someone asked him something else, I think. I couldn't hear over the rush of blood in my ears. Just a fling. My chest went cold. My throat burned. 2 years of tension, months of stolen nights, reduced to a joke. He saw me. I know he did. But he didn't move. Didn't say a word. So I walked out. Packed my things the next morning. Left my ID card on my desk. Didn't answer his calls. Didn't read his messages. I quit the job. Cut him out like a wound that wouldn't heal. And for a while, I told myself I hated him again. But the truth was worse. Because when I closed my eyes, I could still hear his laugh. And I couldn't tell if I missed the sound of it or the way it used to be meant just for me. A few weeks later. It had been weeks since I walked out of that office. Weeks since Zach Weston's voice had haunted every thought, every dream, Every goddamn heartbeat. I'd told myself I hated him, hated his smirk, his arrogance. The way he looked at me was like he knew things about me I hadn't even admitted to myself. But hate doesn't make you wake up in the middle of the night replaying every word. Hate doesn't make your chest tighten at the mention of his name. And then one stupid afternoon, everything I thought I knew detonated. I was grabbing coffee with Jenna from accounting. Just small talk, the usual office gossip I tried to avoid now that I'd quit. She was rambling about how crazy it was that the boss's son had gotten chewed out by his father. Apparently, he was covering for someone, she said between sips. His dad was furious about some relationship scandal, but Zach shut it down before anyone got named. Said he'd been the one crossing lines with a subordinate. My heart stopped. The cup slipped in my hand, hot coffee spilling down my wrist. But I didn't feel it. Jenna kept talking, oblivious. He said he didn't care what people thought. Took the whole blame. You know how his dad is about the company's image. Her voice blurred into static. Zach hadn't humiliated me for fun. He'd done it to protect me. He'd stood there that night, calm, cruel, cutting. And I'd believed every word because it was easier than believing he cared. But he'd been burning himself alive to keep me safe. If his father had found out, I wouldn't have just lost my job. I'd have been blacklisted across the entire industry. And Zach? He'd taken the fall. Let them call him reckless, a liar, a player, all to save me. By the time I realized what I was doing, I was already in the elevator to his office. My hands were shaking, my pulse pounding like a war drum. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just moved. The second I pushed open his door, he looked up, startled at first, then wary, like he'd seen this storm coming long before I did. "Austin," he said slowly, standing. "You shouldn't be here. You lied." The words came out raw, ripped from somewhere deep. "You lied to me." He exhaled, shoulders tense. "I had to." "No," I snapped, slamming the door behind me. "You chose to. You made me hate you. You made me believe I was just another dash dash," my voice cracked. "Another mistake you didn't care about." His jaw tightened, eyes dark with something that looked a lot like pain. "Better you hate me," he said quietly, "than lose everything you've worked for." The calm in his voice, the quiet ache buried under every word, shattered something in me. I crossed the room before I could stop myself. Anger and longing tangled until I couldn't tell one from the other. My hands found his face, rougher than they should have been, and I kissed him, hard, desperate, like I was erasing every lie, every scar, every goddamn wall he'd ever built between us. He froze for a heartbeat. Then he kissed me back, with years of restraint breaking open all at once. His hands cupped my face, his breath trembling against my lips. When we finally broke apart, I whispered against his skin, "Next time, let me decide what I'm willing to lose." Zach rested his forehead against mine, voice hoarse. "You'd lose everything, Austin." I smiled, small and sad. "Maybe, but you were worth every risk." He looked at me then, really looked. No walls, no mask, just him. And for the first time in months, he smiled. Not that smug, practiced grin, just soft, real, home. And in that tiny office, surrounded by all the chaos he'd tried to protect me from, I finally understood. He hadn't ruined me. He'd saved me. Over a month later, the Weston's company annual meeting was the kind of event people whispered about. All glitter, cameras, and power plays disguised as champagne. Zach stood on stage beside his father, every inch the perfect heir until he wasn't. "I've spent years trying to live up to the family name," Zach said, voice steady, eyes sweeping over the crowd. "But I realized something. I don't want to inherit a legacy built on fear. You taught me to fight for what I want, Dad. I'm doing that now, A murmur rippled through the hall. His father stiffened. "Zach!" But Zach didn't stop. He turned, gaze finding me across the room. And for once, I didn't look away. "What I want," he said, voice softening, "isn't power." "It's him," the crowd gasped. His father's expression went cold. But Zach didn't flinch. I walked up to that stage like I was walking through fire. Heart racing, palms sweating, but I didn't care anymore. I stood beside him, and when he reached for my hand, I let him. Let them whisper, let them stare. For the first time, we weren't hiding. A few months later, everything was different. The tension, the whispers, the power games, all of it had burned away. After the public fallout, Zach walked away from his father's company. No drama, no begging, just quiet defiance. He built something of his own, a smaller firm with his own rules, his own people, his own freedom. And when he called months later, asking if I'd join him as part of his new team, I didn't even pretend to hesitate. Now the office felt different. No ghosts in the walls, no secrets buried under fake smiles. Just us, messy, honest, real. That night, the building was nearly empty. The city outside hummed in gold and blue, skyscrapers glowing against the dark. The faint tick of the clock echoed through the floor. Zach was at his desk, sleeves rolled up, tie long gone, glasses slipping down his nose as he worked through a proposal. His hair was a wreck, and God help me, he'd never looked better. For a second, I just stood there in the doorway, wearing one of his old shirts, the one I'd borrowed on my first week here, when he'd spilled coffee on me and smirked like it was my fault. The irony wasn't lost on me. Back then, this office had been a battlefield. Now it was home. He looked up, the corners of his mouth curving into that slow, dangerous grin I knew far too well. "Didn't I tell you?" he murmured, leaning back in his chair. "I like it when you visit after hours." I raised an eyebrow. "You also said we were done mixing business and pleasure." He tilted his head. "I said that before I made you a partner." That made me laugh, low and genuine. I crossed the room, the faint city glow wrapping around us, and perched on the edge of his desk. "Flirting with your partner now?" Reckless move, Weston. Reckless is kinda my thing. Before he could say another word, I leaned in, fingers brushing the stubble on his jaw, and kissed him, soft at first, then hungry, then something deeper, something that said we made it. The same office where it had all started, the rivalry, the chaos, the heartbreak, now pulsed with quiet laughter, warm hands, shared breaths. His hand slid to my waist, anchoring me close. "You realize," he whispered against my lips, "we still haven't had a single meeting that didn't end with you on my desk." I smiled, breathless. "Guess you're stuck with me, boss." He kissed me again, smiling into it. "That's the plan, sweetheart." Outside, the city lights glowed through the wide glass windows, the world moving on. Inside, we stayed in our small corner of peace. No lies, no fear, no pretending. Just us. The thief and the heir. The storm and the calm. The enemies who'd somehow, against every odd, found their way home. And for the first time, I didn't wonder what would happen next. I already knew. It was him. Always him. The end. Would you risk your career for love, or walk away before it burns you alive? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.